All right, welcome back, everybody. This is going to be just a quick video because I've got to get ready for work. I've got a gig this evening. I'm just striking while the iron's hot because everybody's talking about this Fuji autofocus issue, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's finally been picked up by Fuji rumors. It's more likely going to get the attention of Fuji properly now, whereas just a few select YouTubers talking about it probably wasn't enough in the past. I'd like to thank Edvard and I Am Tongue for bringing this matter to the light because yeah, it's ever since it started happening. I was in contact with Edvard at the very beginning, and I released a video. You probably find up my channel where I'm doing that whole kind of finger test with him. I'm sitting on 5.03 with two of my XH2Ss, and I mean I'm old enough. You might tell from my grey hair, but I'm old enough to know that you just don't jump on firmware too quickly. The general public have long become the beta testers for lots of companies and lots of areas, not just cameras. But yeah, because I shoot for money, I'm a lot more cautious. I will just wait and see and adopt that kind of wait and see approach. It's not great, to be honest with Fuji. I mean, I think Edward and Iron Tongue and everybody else has the right to be quite pissed off. You know, some of these products we use to make a living. And really, it's not good enough to. I think what's most concerning for me is the firmware's still up and has been up. Really, they should have been up. They should have been watching this space very intensely for the first week of releasing that firmware, where it was already been reported. And what did they do? They did nothing, and they released it for the XH2 and the XT5, and they've broken those ones as well. So that was my most biggest concern, is that they actually think this is fine and that there is actually nothing that's gotten worse. And my point of this video today is to actually just show you that at least 5.03 I think is fairly safe. I've demonstrated and worked with Edward on this and shown like I don't seem to be suffering the kind of issues to the same degree or extent. Because believe me, I mean, like I say, I use these cameras to two XH2Ss to make a living. I would never have bought another one. I only bought a second one maybe this calendar year or late last year. I can't remember now, but certainly been shooting on one XH2S since fairly near the beginning of its release, and I'd added a second about a year later. If I was getting anything like the kind of results that Edward was getting and Iron Tongue, then I just wouldn't be using this camera. I would have went to a different system. So yeah, I mean the Iron Tongue showed those kind of hit rates that he was getting. That was quite appalling as well. This is one of the first things I typically do. I've got two young children, and I put them through the paces, and I'll link in the description below the comments some of those albums. But I've got one from the Fujifilm House Photography store where I was on 3.0 with the 50f2 on the XH2S, and I was getting about 70%. And this is the thing as well. And people throw out the figures, 50%, 70%, 80%, 90%. The devil's in the details. I mean, for me, when I do these tests, it's hard to come out with a percentage because really, if I'm very, very brutal and only care about the eye, well, sometimes the subject's so far away that it's really gone from eye detection to face detection, which is fair enough. But for me, I typically grade it, A being completely critically in focus, B being usable but could possibly be better, and then C just being just downright out of focus. And so I'm usually with these tests, I've done it with my kids, and you'll see later on in this video, you're going to see some footage and some videos as I test and show you what 5.03 is doing. But you'll see that I typically I'm coming out more like about 70% real life, not 50%. So I think they've broken it on 6.0 to being quite worse than what it used to be. So yeah, I mean that's basically it now. And I hope that Fujifilm do patch quickly. Really they should have taken the firmware down a long time ago. I hope that when Summer Real Ace comes out, that they fixed it. But again, I won't be updating in the summer. I'll probably be waiting until, autumn or something like that, or winter, Christmas time before I'm actually going to have the balls to go to Real Ace once the dust is settled and people say things are back to normal or improved. If the big question for me right now is can they fix this? We just don't know. I mean, Patrick is saying that it's an easy fix solution. I'm like, well, mate, if it was easy, maybe they would have done it by now. I mean, Fuji have been a bit buggy with firmware before and been quick to act on it. They haven't done anything here. So, for those that are suffering problems with it, maybe speak to your Fuji rep. Maybe they will be able to take your camera back and roll it back a firmware without a charge, because that's what I would be pushing for right now. But anyway, we'll get into it. I'm gonna, like I say, show you some links to some of the stuff that I've done before, where these tests, these walking tests, and things like that. But we're gonna actually specifically just look at some of the video ones as well. And yeah, so let's just get into that now. All right, so let's just have a quick look here. So this is me on a 14 XF14 2.8. This doesn't have any kind of filter. So it's quite crispy, quite digital looking because there's no filter for this one at the moment. So -4 for sharpness and noise reduction. And it's one of the older AF motors. All right. We're on the Sigma R 18 to 35 with a Fringer 3 adapter here. Roughly around about 24 f1.8, and I think you can see there's just no smooth, really transition. It's quite a lot more snappy, and not as pleasing. This is the Fringer issue. This is something we've all wanted Fringer to really update and give us a little bit better, because it can't take advantage of any of the kind of custom settings in the menu. So you notice I've got tracking +2, speed -2. It's irrelevant in this instance. Okay, it just does what it wants, and that's best as it really kind of gets. And we're moving on to the Zeiss to it 32 1.8. And this is quite a nice surprise, actually. I don't know when they fixed this, but at one point, the Zeiss couldn't take advantage of any of the ASC custom settings. Here we can see there's definitely a nice smooth graduation between when it's reacquiring focus. It's not snapping, it's not abrasive, it's smooth and slow. It's actually really quite a nice result. So that's good. I haven't updated the lens. That seems to be something that's just seemed to be supported now. So that's much nicer. In the past, it used to be snappy like the Fringer and Sigma. So that's quite nice. But once I noticed that it was doing that, I changed the tracking and I put it to 0 and plus speed for 5. This should mean that the tracking is as snappy and fast acquiring as possible. And as you can see now, it's starting to do that kind of like more abrasive kind of snap to and fro, to and fro. It's not as pleasing in my opinion. So if you want to mask some of the Fuji autofocus problems, you can play around with the tracking and speed a little bit and get something that's a little bit more pleasing. There may be a better middle ground. I've obviously just jumped from 2 -2 to 0 +5. There may be a better middle ground there where you can get a bit smoother. But yeah, you can see that it's a bit more abrasive, a bit more snappy, and takes a while to settle. Same lens. All right, and kind of interesting. They had glimmer glass one. This is the XF50 to 140. Same tracking, 0 +5 for speed. This is me just working out the minimum focus distance, I think. So when I get to about here, yeah, that's not autofocus failure. That's me pushed too far past the minimum focus. So I'm just kind of working that out at the moment. This is the linear motor. This is the only one with linear motor. And I do feel as though it is smoother when you compare this linear motor with the same tracking 0 +5 speed compared to that to it before. It doesn't feel like it's snapping quite as horrible. It's a little bit smoother for that transition. So yeah, not too many problems there. Um, and again, you see, I think you can tell there's a difference. The linear motor is definitely doing a bit better here than the Zeiss to it without the linear motors, despite being on the same settings. All right, so definitely, absolutely play around with your tracking and speed a little bit for depending on what you're doing and what kind of shoot. But again, I think this is very different to Edvard's video for his autofocus at 6.0. Shame. And just talking about that XF 50 to 140, one of the reasons I like it so much is it's proved to be almost parfocal in my testing at least. I'll just show you quickly here a video of my boy walking towards the camera. I'm starting off at 140 and I'm pulling back as we're going along. It's not too bad. It loses a little bit at the end there when he comes to an end, but as you can see again. That's 140 at 2.8, pulling back all the way to 50 mil 2.8. Not too bad. It's quite good result really for something might be like, walking down the aisle or something like that. Usually, brides walking down the aisle and all the party, they're a lot slower than that as well. This is just a GIF I've done of all the kind of stills. So I was in burst mode here, just shooting, rattling off. And again, you get an idea of the kind of hit rate there. Same sort of thing. Just I think it's about 10 frames a second. Pretty cushy there. So I found, yeah, that lens to be quite good for something like that kind of work. It's one of the reasons it hasn't left my bag. I actually love the 50 to 100 1.8 Sigma art lens. That's usually what I will use a lot of time when subjects aren't moving on the z-axis. To me, it's the z-axis stuff that Fuji struggles the most. If people are moving X and Y, or Y and X, whatever, if they're moving that way, it's not too bad. We're keeping up with tracking. Most of my work, that's how people are. If I'm doing corporate government stuff where people speak at a podium, lectern, they're not really moving that much. Sometimes you do get animated speakers that are moving quite a bit, but most people are fairly stationary. And again, musicians sitting down in chairs playing cellos, they're not moving too much, so it's not too challenging. A system. I do get frustrated times. To times, I do get take shots like this one below here where I'm hoping that I've got focus. It's saying its eye is in focus, but when you inspect them closer, you are actually seeing it's kind of more towards the ear, and that it's got rather than the eye. But it's still every now and then you will still get a situation where it does absolutely nail focus perfectly in the eye in a similar situation. So again, just showing that kind of idea of that you're always just going to get something like the chin in focus, like what Edward's getting in 6.0. That's not really been my experience at all. That's more rare. It often is the opposite, and it will actually have the eye in focus there. So yeah. All right. So in summary, I think that's all I really have to say on the topic, which is that I'm not here to claim where Fuji's autofocus lies in the realm of the photography market. I'm happy to take at face value that Sony's miles better, Canon's better, Nikon's better, Panasonic's better. To me, I can't comment on that. I can only just I mean, I did a video called "The Truth About Fuji's Autofocus." I think that's like my last video or the second last one I did. I encourage you to watch that because really, I take into Lightroom and show you my exact workflow as to how to get critically sharp shots with the XH2Ss in a work setting. And it's not great because it does actually involve doing a lot of spamming. And you will see a pattern where you get critical focus shots, and then the focus starts to drift a little bit and then snap back again. It's actually uncanny how often you will find the worst out of focus shot in a set shot in a burst like 10 15 frames a second, and the very next shot after the really bad out of focus one is a critically good shot as it just snaps back onto the eye. So, fortunately, I mean, in my line of work, I don't want to repeat what I just wrote in that and talked about in that last video, but in my line of work, I'm spamming quite a lot anyway. I'm looking for, public speaking. You're trying to capture somebody talking that doesn't make them look all weird in the mouth. And, for musicians, I'm looking for really nice moments and positions where their instruments and bows and stuff like that. So, spamming is a bit part of my job a little bit, comes with the territory of how I shoot. And it's not often I'm let down catastrophically where I get the most beautiful moment, but it's, really missed that focus terribly. I'm also, a lot of my work just ends up in A5 booklets and ends up in it's just not blown up too big. Sometimes there are some big posters that around theaters and stuff like that, but often not, and it's just in websites, social media. So that critical focus is not totally really important to me. um but yeah, I hope that they fix it. I hope it is addressed, and I'm just trying to bring a little bit balance to this because I think everybody's like, Fuji's autofocus sucks, it's terrible, it's really bad. I just want to make sure that people really do understand it is mostly 6.0. I think they stuffed it big time, and there's problems that I just don't get at all under certain situations, and then there's just like hit rate has just gone down for a lot of situations. If people, I mean, that whole thing with the writing under the firmware and they've wrote AF improved. It's just a lie. It's AF is not improved, and I feel it really, that is bad that they have that up there. there's not a single person who's come out saying that the AF is better and actually showed and demonstrated through this type of medium or anything else how it is better than it was before. I just don't believe it. It's not better, it's worse in almost every single situation, whether it be stills work, burst shooting, or whether it be, you've done something like video talking head and you've got something partially in your way, and it's focusing on the hand all the time instead of the eyes. You can see there it's not really working for me. It seems to be pretty solid on 5.03. It's not really going for the hand at all, so yeah, 6.0, eh? All right, we'll leave it there, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.